All right, welcome everyone to today's webinar on leveraging reference managers. My name is Faye Callista. I'm the librarian here at the Chicago campus of the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. I just thought I'd introduce myself really quickly. I'm going to turn off my webcam. I hope that's okay, and just kind of have the slides open here for you. So let's switch this off. All right. All right, so a couple of things before we begin. If you have any questions at any point during the webinar, you're more than welcome to raise your hand because everyone is muted right now. But if you raise your hand, I can unmute you and then you can ask your question, whether you're using a headset or your phone. We can all then hear you. If you don't want to do that, you can also type your question. So I'll kind of keep an eye on that. I may not get to your question immediately, but I'll sort of keep an eye on that and answer questions kind of as we go. There'll definitely be time at the end for questions as well. So if you just want to hold your questions until then, that is fine. I am recording this webinar and that will be emailed to you. And then I also included 2 files. So I did include the PowerPoint if you want a copy. You'll find that in the, there's like a files section. If you can't find that, let me know, but you should be able to see that. And then there's also an additional document that you can download that I added, and that's the reference management or manager comparison document, which we will talk about actually during the webinar. So, all right. All right, so we're talking about citation management. And a lot of the students that come to me, you know, a lot of the questions I ask them is like, what do you do with all of the articles that you find? Do you email them to yourself? I definitely get a lot of students who do that. You know, how do you create your citations in APA style? Do you handwrite them all? Do you use any tools that help you do that? And then how do you organize your articles? Do you organize them, you know, in folders? Do you physically like print them out and stack them on your desk? You know, everyone has a different sort of style, right, of sort of managing their articles. Particularly, I don't know if a lot of you are either in the process of researching for your dissertation or if you're just curious about citation management for papers. Either way, you know, you might have different ways of sort of organizing your articles. But there's definitely another way, and that's why we're probably all here. You know, we definitely want to be able to save time. We want to be able to organize things so that they're accessible from anywhere. And then also, you know, something that might help us to create citations in APA format very quickly, maybe even while we write. So there is a way to do that, right? And that is with our citation management tools, also known as reference management software. So by the end of the session today, hopefully you'll have a better idea of what citation managements are, what they can do for you. We'll talk a little bit about how to choose which tool to use because there's several of them. So we'll kind of look at the different tools that are available out there. And then we'll kind of give you an idea of how to get started. I definitely am not going to go into exhaustive detail about each of the different citation management tools. It's kind of beyond the scope of this webinar. Rather, I just kind of wanted to give you an overview, right? So what are the tools that are available, kind of how they work, generally speaking, how they can sort of benefit you, and then also, yeah, how to get started. And then I'll provide some additional information on what do you do once you do get started and, maybe hit a roadblock, where are some help guides that you can find, who can you contact if you have further questions? Because I know you will have some after this webinar, and if you do start using citation management tools, you may have some questions down the line. So definitely point you to those resources. All right, so does anybody have any questions before we get started? All right. So what is citation management? Basically, what it is a program, right, or an application that is used to help us store, organize, share, and output citations in a variety of formats, including APA or APA 7th edition, which I guess we're starting now in the fall at the Chicago School. So citation managers make it really easy, or easier, I would say, to gather citations from library databases, from Google Scholar, and also just from websites. They help us to edit, organize, and search citations, and output citations in many formats. So not just APA 7th edition, but other ones as well. Most citation managers also integrate with word processing programs. So, you can kind of use them as you write your paper or your dissertation. Once you've sort of created your database of citations, basically the way that it works is then you have your database, you can search your database, and then add those in-text citations as you write, and then it sort of automatically generates that bibliography at the end. So we'll go into more detail about that for sure, and I'll show you kind of how that looks. So essentially, a citation manager is a helpful time-saving tool that can help you when you write your paper using cited references and bibliographies. So that's basically what it is in a nutshell. All right, so citation managers make it easy for you to gather. Oh wait, did we already do this? We did. So we talked about gathering citations from different sources, search the papers you collect by author, title, journal subject headings, or even your own keywords. So we'll go over that as well, like how do you create maybe tags for each of the articles that you find so that they're easily searchable, right? Rather than searching through a stack of papers on your desk. I mean, that might work for you, but this is another alternative. Of course, insert citations directly into your documents, generate bibliographies in APA 7th edition. You can also take notes, and those are also searchable, so they're all kind of stored in one place. So if we're doing, for example, annotated bibliographies, or as you're sort of writing your dissertation and you want to add notes about sort of what that particular article, how it sort of relates to your dissertation, you could add notes about that. And then you can also share also articles with other people. So if you're collaborating on a project, that can be really helpful as well. All right. So there's lots of different citation management tools out there. They're generally pretty similar, although there are some differences between each of them. So ProQuest RefWorks, you may be familiar with that one. It is actually a tool that is available through the library, and I'll show you where that's located. It's actually a subscription that we have to that resource. There's other ones as well. So there's Zotero, which is a free tool. We'll take a look at that one. Mendeley is another one that you may find. And then finally, EndNote. Those are, I think, the sort of the main or the major sort of citation management tools out there. EndNote actually has two different versions. There's like a free version and there's also a subscription version. We don't have a subscription to EndNote through the library or through the Chicago School, so that would be something that you would sort of decide whether or not that was something that you wanted to do. And I think the paid version has like some additional features, obviously, that the free version does not have. So we'll go over some of the differences here between the different tools. So again, RefWorks is a tool that is free to all Chicago School faculty, staff, and students. You can usually keep your account after leaving the Chicago School as long as we're still subscribing to that resource, which of course, you know, can change. Usually if that's the case, like if for some reason we decided that we were no longer going to subscribe, you would get an email with instructions on how to transfer your bibliography or your references to another tool. All right, and let's see here. Looks like we have a question here. So let's see here. Brett, did you have a question? I see that you're muted. Brett, did you have a question? Hi.
Hi. Yeah, just a quick question. In the Word document that I downloaded from this presentation, Mendeley wasn't included, but now here in this slide, you have a column on Mendeley. So that's the one that I've been using. And so I was just curious. But now that I see you're going to talk about it here, maybe that sort of answers my question, but it wasn't in that Word document.
Thanks for letting me know, actually. I might have uploaded an older version. So in that case, what I might do is I'll go ahead and after the presentation, I'll email you the more recent document with Mendeley in it. All right. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. So RefWorks is free through the Chicago School. EndNote Web is also free. There's a desktop version of EndNote that is free for a trial, but then there is some, I think, a subscription fee. Don't remember offhand how much it is. It might be maybe $99 or something like that. With Mendeley, there's also a free version with additional features that are available for a charge. And then Zotero is generally pretty, I think there's no paid version of that one, so it's free. Oh yeah, there might be some additional features that are available for an additional charge. I find that it's pretty robust though for the free version of Zotero. So they all basically work the same way. You can export references from different different areas or sources, I should say, like the library databases, Google Scholar, the web. There are a few differences between the different tools. I think, for example, Mendeley will retrieve metadata for PDFs that are dragged and dropped into the database. I think RefWorks also has sort of a browser plugin where you can drag and drop PDFs. I think some of the other tools that are free, like Zotero, it doesn't have necessarily a document storage tool available. So you, if you wanted to actually store entire articles, there's other ways that you can do that. All of them do have full text linking available, except for, I think, Mendeley, at least last I checked. So yeah, most of these you can add file attachments. With Zotero, as I said, it doesn't have like a standalone sort of, PDF storage, but you can link citations to PDF in your folders on your computer, for example. So there's like a linking tool. Some of these allow you to auto download PDFs, but it depends kind of on where that PDF is located and what version you have. With RefWorks, for example, you have to have the browser plugin, for example. Oops, sorry about that. Hold on. My computer is, let's see here. You go back to that. There we go. Sorry about that. Just a second. Let me find that. Oh, okay, here we go. All right. All right, we have a couple questions here. So is there any data on percentage of utilization among students? Any feedback on individual student experiences? I tried EndNote and found it was very difficult to navigate. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely been one of the things that we heard about EndNote. You know, there's a little bit of a steeper learning curve when it comes to learning how to use it. Don't have statistics on how many people use it. I mean, I think that, yeah, I would have to look at that. I mean, there are a good number of students who do like to use RefWorks. Some use EndNote. We've had some students who said they really liked Zotero. So it's kind of all over the place, and it's really kind of a personal preference. So this is one of the reasons why we sort of gave you this document, or so you can kind of compare the different versions. I actually recommend maybe even looking at them individually as well. I mean, go ahead, since RefWorks is free through the library, take a look at it, and I'll show you how that works too, kind of give you a an overview. But maybe play around with a couple of different tools and see which one you're sort of more comfortable with. I know that sounds like a lot of work, but I don't really have a better way to do that. I mean, either, you know, you sort of look at the comparison sheet that we have here in front of us and kind of use that, or as I said, just kind of play around with it. Full text linking. I have a question about that. So basically that just means that within the database for each of the different articles that you save, you can make the option of you know, adding a link to where that item is available full text. And maybe I can show that to you once I actually demo one of these tools for you. So somebody else made a comment that the Mendeley web importer does not work if AdBlock is installed on your browser. And yeah, there are definitely a little tricky, like each of these tools, I would say, does have its quirks. So, you know, ad blockers, pop-up, you know, if you have a pop-up blocker, you know, RefWorks sometimes doesn't work either. So usually you will have some kind of sort of wording about that, so you can change it. And then I'll show you where some help files are located too, at least for RefWorks, in case you encounter any issues. Most of these tools do have help files and tutorials and guides that make this a little easier. Somebody else asked, is there a group code to use RefWorks? Actually, you shouldn't have to use a group code. If you use your Chicago school email account, you should never have to enter a group code. And I'll show you actually where to go for RefWorks and then how to sign up for an account. Yeah. And we have another comment here about how Mendeley, the plugin only works in Firefox. So yeah, another one of those quirks. And thanks for providing that feedback, because that's really helpful. Mendeley is one of those tools. Actually added it to this particular document, but it's one that I'm not super familiar with. I'm more familiar with the RefWorks and the Zotero. tools. It's kind of hard to be an expert on each and every one of these, just because there's just so much. So yeah, cost might be a consideration. So again, like if cost is a consideration and you don't want to pay for using one of these tools, I would recommend either the RefWorks or the Zotero tools. I mean, EndNoteWeb is pretty good too. You can sort of take a look at those. Let's see, and then, yeah. We could probably spend a lot of time just comparing each of these tools. I just wanted to give you kind of a broader overview of some of the differences between them. I just found out recently too that Zotero, and it's not included in this document, has a really cool timeline feature, which I'll show you, which RefWorks doesn't have, for example. So we'll take a look at that. So one of the first questions I get about, citation managers is how do you actually collect the citations that you find? And this is actually important too, because, these citation managers are not going to be as helpful if you've already done your research, right? They're most helpful, as you do your research, whether you're using library databases or Google Scholar or finding your sources on the web, etc. So basically all library databases and Google Scholar provide links to upload any saved items to a citation manager. Most citation managers also include a plugin that you can use for web browsers that basically allow you to collect citations from web pages that you find. All right, so first we're going to look at how to collect and organize your citations as you research in the library. And you've got actually a couple options there. So let me go to the library here just a second. Right. All right, so here we are in the library. And I'm going to look at some of our library databases, for example. Let's say that we were doing, look at ABI Inform Global. This is one of our sort of management business databases. And then let's say we were doing some research on women and leadership. And most of the databases are pretty much very similar when it comes to, the citation management tools, with a few differences. Now I started in ProQuest, and let's just go ahead and probably if I were doing research on this particular topic, I'd probably narrow it down. This is a little bit too broad, but this is just for demonstration purposes. So we're doing research on this topic, and then I decide, okay, this looks like a really great article. I want to save that one. And then let's say I want to save this one. All right. So I've got some articles here that we want to save. There's a folder up here where those items are located that I've saved. And then I've got some options here. And one of my options under Save Options is to export to either EndNote. That's an option here. I think Zotero would be the same here. There's also an option to export to RefWorks. Yeah. Now, the nice thing about ProQuest, actually, if you do use the ProQuest databases a lot, is if you create an account here, it's called a My Research account, you can actually link your account to RefWorks. So that's really nice, because then any articles that you save within the database, within ProQuest, gets automatically saved to RefWorks as well. You might be asking yourself, well, why even bother to create a My Research account? I mean, I could just export everything to RefWorks. It's a good question. There's a couple of things that actually are really nice about a My Research account besides just the ability to save your references. It also enables you to save your searches, which is really nice, which is something that the citation managers don't do. So if I were, for example, doing a literature review and I wanted to sort of, maybe I have several different searches that I want to do using different keywords, you know, I can save each of those different searches in my research account. So, and EBSCO has something very similar. So again, you know, you don't have to create a My Research account in order to export your citations to your RefWorks account, but it's kind of a nice added feature if you wanted to use that. All right, so let me go ahead and export these. And I'm going to use RefWorks just because that's the one that, that's the citation manager that we use here in the library and that we support probably the most. All right, so I'm going to go back here to Save Options, and I'm going to click on RefWorks. All right, now you may get a question like this. You know, there's actually two different versions of RefWorks. You want to use the newest version because the legacy version is sort of outdated and is no longer supported. So we'll go ahead and do the newest version. Now, if you haven't created a RefWorks account already, and here I can create different folders. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. If you haven't created a RefWorks account already, you can do that through the library website. So if you go to My Accounts on the main page here, and then click on RefWorks. I'm already logged in here, but if you're not logged in, there's an option there for you to create an account. And again, use your Chicago School account because that is how you sort of get around the group code and everything like that. We have a subscription and that will allow you to create an account for free. All right, so back to RefWorks. These are the three items that we just found in the ProQuest database that we were just in. That's our last imported folder. I can create different folders for different, you know, however you want to organize it. And basically all of the citation managers give you this capability, right? To create different folders and then to organize your citations into those different folders, however you want to do that. Let's take a look at the individual items here. So let's see here. So I clicked on the first one here, and then here's all the details about that article. And this is the same, I mean, it's very similar in basically all of the citation managers, not just RefWorks. You know, it includes usually the abstract, there's different tags associated with the item or the article. You can create tags, remove tags. They're only for, you know, sort of helping you search your database, basically. So you can use them or not use them. There's a URL there for finding that item in the library database. There's some notes here, which you can always add additional notes to. And then there's also a place here where you can, well, here you go. If you click edit, that's basically where you can add additional notes. I think you can also add an attachment if you want. So if you actually want to attach the entire article, to this record, you can. You always want to also double check the data in here and make sure that it's accurate. One way to do that too is, maybe we can create a quick bibliography actually from these items. So these are the last 3. Here we go. The last 3 articles that we just found, and I'm going to create bibliography. All right. And then just check through and make sure that it looks accurate. Sometimes when you export information from library databases or from other sources, you'll find that there might be some errors. So sometimes I'll find that the database has, like, for example, the title in all caps or something like that, or there's something off about the authors. So just check through and make sure that it looks correct. You'll notice here that I have APA 7th chosen here as my output style. You can definitely change this. I usually use the no case changes, no title casing. You'll also notice though that there is actually something incorrect about the way that this is displayed. Let me open up a Word document and show you. So you'll notice that it actually has this kind of weird URL here where it includes information about the library. This is like the, so it's a little bit wonky. Usually the way that I work around that is I'll copy, let's see here, copy this part. That's only this part right here. Do copy, and then I'll do replace. And you can do that actually at the end of the document. That would probably be the easiest. All right, and then replace. Right. Oops, did I do that right? No, didn't mean to do that. I only meant to replace this part where it says HTTP. Oops. Just this part. So yeah, there's definitely quirks like that to watch out for. All right, so that looks better. So my DOI looks accurate now. It doesn't have that extra information in there. All right, let me go back to RefWorks. All right, so just double check and make sure that your citations have been imported correctly and that there isn't anything wonky about the citation. And as I said, probably one of the easiest ways to just create a bibliography really quickly to make sure that it looks all right. All right, any questions so far? All right. Most citation management tools also, so they allow you to create bibliographies. You can also edit each of the items that you've downloaded, add notes, add PDF files. You can also add additional items to your database. So, you can either create a new reference, like maybe it's a book that I have in front of me. Print book, for example, and I just want to add that to my database, I can do that. So it's really flexible. Let's see here. I've got another question here from Brett. Did you have your hand raised?
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
When you we're talking about tags and notes and things like that, are you able to show how someone could then search for tags or something that you put in notes in RefWorks?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So there is a search tool here that you can actually search all of your references for words, phrases, or tags. And then I'll show you a little bit later, once we're actually in a document, how you can also search your tags or your notes directly within the word processor. So there's sort of two different places you can do that. Hopefully that answered your question. Okay. Then I've got another question here. I've got a few hundred references in the MS Word bibliography. Could I import them into RefWorks? That's actually a really good question. I think there is a way. I don't have an immediate answer for you, but that's something that either, you can email me about, and I can see if I can find the answer to that. Something that there's not a perfect, I guess the answer to that is that there's not a really perfect way to do that. There's a couple of different ways that you could do that, depending on kind of what you want to do with those references, or how you want to, how much information you actually want to import. You may have to actually go into the library databases, for example, and import the information from there. But as I said, you can do that. It's just, I'll provide my email at the end, and then I can definitely help you with that further after the webinar. All right. All right, so besides being able to create bibliographies and organize your citations into different folders, create tags, create notes, there's a couple other things you can do with this. You'll notice under your account, there are some tools that are available. One of the tools is the Save to RefWorks tool that actually helps you to add references from any website, sort of something, a plugin that works with your web browser. And then there's the citation tool for your word processor. So that's actually the tool that you can use, that integrates your RefWorks account with your word processor. And as I said, most citation managers do have a word processing plugin. They're all a little bit different. Some of them work a little bit, like I would say, the integration is more seamless in some tools than others. I find that RefWorks works pretty well. Other tools like Zotero, I find, might not work as well, for example, with Google Docs. I think there's a way, but there, it's a little tricky. All right, so this particular citation management tool, RefWorks, works best with either Word for Mac or Windows, or with Google Docs. And I'm not really familiar with Hangul, maybe you guys are, but anyway, so you can download and install the Write and Cite tool. Let me show you actually what that looks like. So I'm going to open up my Word document. I'm going to open a new one. All right. And you'll notice that I already downloaded the plugin for the RefWorks Citation Manager. It would look similar for other citation management tools as well. So there is an add-in for Zotero, for example, which I wasn't actually able to download with my Word version here, just because it's Office 365 and there's some extra steps. Just got this laptop, so I wasn't able to do that in time for this webinar, but basically it works very similarly. So I'm going to open this up. And that'll sort of open up our RefWorks Citation Manager. So these are all of the references that I've saved so far in my RefWorks database. These are mostly saved, I think, from library databases that I've sort of exported to my RefWorks account. And so let's say I'm ready to write my paper, my dissertation. and I want to cite somebody. So let's see, I'm going to say according to, and then I can search all of my references. So I had that question earlier about, you know, can you search your notes or your tags? You can do that here. All right. So I can scroll through these as well and find what I'm looking for. So let's say that I want to cite this particular article. I can just do a quick cite, which means that it will add the author and the year. But if I need to edit it, I can click edit this, and I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and see here. I'm going to type the author's name, and I just want to have the date in parentheses, so it looks like this. You can always add pages, like if you're doing a direct quote, you know, so this is very customizable. But I want it to look like this. So I'm going to go ahead and click Insert Citation, and then it dropped that date into the document. Now you'll notice that my bibliography is off right now, but if I turned it on, and you can do that at any time, it actually adds those references to your paper as you go. And again, this is pretty much like the same with any of the citation management tools that, or those plugins that work with your word processor. Basically, as you're adding the citations to your paper, it's also adding those references at the end. And it's going to do that in the style that you chose. So I chose APA 7. You'll notice that if I, like, as I add citations to my paper, it's also going to shuffle those references in order. So it's going to be in alphabetical order, which is nice. You don't have to go back and change that. All right, so as you can see, it can be a pretty huge time saver, right? Because you're using your citation management tool as you write your paper. It's automatically generating that reference list at the end. So that's fantastic. Any questions so far about the plugin? Let's see here. Parenthetical citation. So if I were to, let's see here, if I wanted to use a citation here, let's see, parenthetical. You'll have to do a new one here. Let's go ahead and use this one. Suffix, I think. Actually, now I kind of forgot my APA. This would be a good question for our writing specialists here. I kind of forgot what the, but you know, if you wanted to add a page number, like if you're doing like a quotation or something like that, and you're adding the page number, you would do it as a suffix. So I think it's, I don't know if it's page 8, something like that. Whatever edits you're making, it's going to, this is how it's going to appear in your actual paper. Maybe you can tell me what the APA, I forgot what it is offhand. It's been a little while. But yeah, that's basically how you would do that. So RefWorks does have some really great tutorials actually included in the database, in the under their Knowledge Center. They have some really great video tutorials, and then also guides on, you know, those kind of details about how to add those parenthetical references or citations and other things. All right. Now you can also use it with like Google Docs. I mean, it's kind of the similar thing where you know, you can add RefWorks, manage your citations here as well if you rather use Google Docs, and it basically works the same way. And then just wanted to show you really quickly. So I also downloaded Zotero, and you know, there's a lot of similarities here with how it, you know, with RefWorks in the sense that you can, you know, export your citations from library databases, from Google Scholar, from web pages. You can also go into each of those items and edit, you know, add notes. Oops. Hold on a second. Close that. So yeah, you can add notes to each of these items, you know, remove or add tags, add URLs. I did want to show you, actually, this was something that was a little bit different about Zotero that I liked, that some of the other citation managers didn't have, is, let me see if I can find it here. So I think it's under tools. There's a create timeline tool here. See if it'll work. Okay, I have to choose. Oh, for some reason now it's not working for me. All right. That's funny. I just looked at this like an hour ago and it showed me how to do that, and now it's not doing that. I may actually send you some information about that later if, since it's not working right now. All right. But yeah, so it's very similar. I'm not going to show you Mendeley or EndNote, but just to kind of say that, you know, as I said, generally speaking, they have a lot of the same functionality. It just looks different. There might be little quirks, slight differences in sort of, you know, how they work, but generally speaking, they work very similarly. All right, I'm going to pause this for a second here while I switch over. All right, I'm gonna. All right. All right, so just to recap, once you've collected your citations, you know, you definitely want to make sure that your citations are correct. You may want to organize them into different folders. You know, you can also annotate or make notes, create bibliographies, and then as we just saw, we can also insert citations as you write. All right, so what are the next steps? Now that you know sort of the general features of some of the different citation management tools and what they can do for you and how they can be a time saver, you may want to, again, review the comparison chart. And I'll send you the new one with Mendeley on it after the presentation is over. So think about like which tool you might work best for your needs, whether you want to pay or not pay, for example, and so forth. You may want to go ahead and create an account, at least with one of the tools. I would recommend, even if you do have time, to compare a couple of them just to kind of see which one you're more comfortable with. And as somebody mentioned earlier, You know, there's definitely a steeper learning curve with some of these. Like some people do find that EndNote is really overwhelming, and there's a little bit more of a learning curve for that one. Some people do find that RoughWorks is pretty easy to use, so that's something to consider. Once you've created an account, go ahead and download that word processor plugin. So whether you're using RoughWorks or what are the other tools, you know, go ahead and do that and start practicing. So, you know, practice saving your citations from, you know, the library databases. You can try Google Scholar as well. That works very similarly. And then go ahead and open a document and practice using citations while you write. There is a little bit of a learning curve with that, you know, like, so try some different citations, use that sort of parenthetical, you know, if you're using a quotation or paraphrasing, and try sort of, you know, how that works. So do a little practice. And then once you've sort of practiced, at least in one of them, or you know, maybe an additional tool, definitely then decide which one you're going to use and stick with it, because I think it gets really confusing. You know, if you're not sure which tool to use. Although it is, you know, if you do start out with one tool and you decide that you're going to switch to another citation manager, it's usually not too difficult to transfer the citations from one tool to another. Most enable you to do that. So something to keep in mind. But I'd say, like, very good idea is to choose a tool before you do some like major research, particularly for a dissertation. And as I said, play around with it. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to schedule an appointment or email us at library@thechicagoschool.edu. If you have any APA questions or writing questions, you can reach the Writing Center. There's an online Writing Center at thechicagoschool.edu. They're more than happy to help you with any of those types of questions. Generally, as librarians, we don't really deal with APA questions as much, but we can help you with, you know, either choosing a citation tool, or if you have specific questions about any of the citations tools, in particular RoughWorks, because that's the one that we support. We may be able to help you with other tools like Zotero and EndNote, depending on what your question is, or at least point you in the right direction. All right, so that was kind of a, you know, really quick overview. Does anybody have any other questions or something that maybe you wanted to learn more about that you didn't? All right, so got a couple questions here already here. So if I didn't address this already, the quick cite is basically in RoughWorks, it'll give you the author and the year in parentheses. So that's sort of like what you would call the default. If you wanted something different, just the author, just the year, add a page number, that's when you would click edit. Somebody is saying that RoughWorks does need a group code. You may want to email us about that, because you shouldn't need one. So if it is asking you for one, maybe it's for the older version of RoughWorks. So I may have to send you the new RoughWorks. You shouldn't need a group code for that. Somebody else suggested, when are we going to offer this again? I will definitely cover this again in the fall. And then we'll probably have a dissertation boot camp, maybe towards the end of fall. So I'll offer it again during that time. There is a survey here at the end. If you have any suggestions for how to make this better, definitely let me know. This is the first time that I presented on this, and I know that I can do could have tightened this up a little bit for the next time. So if there's something that you want to look at in particular, or that I missed, or you want to spend more time on, definitely let me know. And then somebody else wanted to go over again how to log in for RoughWorks. Oh, that's fantastic. Yes, I can definitely show that to you again. Hold on a second. So in the library, or on the library website, you'll notice that there is a link here for my accounts. And then under your library accounts, there's one link here for RefWorks. And just to show you really quickly, I'm going to log out of RefWorks just to kind of show you really quickly. Hold on a second. I'll log out. All right. So if you haven't logged in, this is what it will look like when you click on that RefWorks link. So here's where you would create an account. And then otherwise, when you sign in, you're going to use your Chicago School email address and then whatever password you created when you made the account. So it's that easy. Oops. Hopefully that worked. Hold on. Anyway, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint here. All right. Hopefully that answered your question. If you do have any login issues or account issues, definitely let us know. We can help you with that. Any other questions? And I know that was a lot, and I know that it wasn't like, you know, it's a lot to kind of go over. So if you do have any other questions after the webinar, you're more than welcome to contact us as well, and we'll do our best to help. Somebody just asked if this is the same email password that we use to check our email. No, actually, when you create a RefWorks account, the only thing that you need to do is definitely use your Chicago School email when you sign up for an account. But as far as your password, you can use anything because it'll ask you to create one. All right. Well, I'll stick around for a couple more minutes. If you don't have any other questions, thank you so much for participating. I hope this was helpful, or at least I hope that this will get you started with a citation management tool. And as I said, if you have any other questions, let us know at library@thechicagoschool.edu. Thank you.